Birds like pooing, bees like peeing, but everyone hates fake default Ian.
One day in 2008, there was a global banking crisis. A bank in England called HBOS was funding its loans using short-term wholesale money market funds and lending the money long-term to its child company in Australia, Bankwest. When the credit markets froze, HBOS couldn't roll over its funding. HBOS went broke, making Bankwest insolvent. But Bankwest had already signed lending agreements with its own customers and could no longer honour them. Ian was presented with the deal of the century. He knew that Bankwest had failed because of its parent company's inability to roll over its loan book funding, and not because of the customer impairments, because Ian's own report showed the impairments were low. Pondered Ian. I wonder how I can use this unique opportunity and market panic to make a bigger profit. But Ian had a problem. For various reasons relating to Basel capital adequacy, provisioning and group strategy, he didn't want certain customers and needed them removed from the loan book. Ian knew that the customers were honouring their contractual obligations and were not in any financial difficulty. He also knew Bankwest were about to break their obligations to pay agreed financing to customers due to its insolvency. He had to think fast. Ian had two options, one legal, one not legal. Option 1. He could give the customers he didn't want reasonable notice to refinance their loans with other banks or sell up in a rational manner. By doing this, Ian would get his money back, but he would also be losing business. There must be a way I can remove these customers while making money in the process, thought Ian. To regular people, this seems a contradiction, but not Ian, so he came up with option 2. He remembered what the crazy old man said while burning his car, so Ian started inducing default on Bankwest customers, to the total of $630 million. He remembered what the crazy old man said while burning his boat, so Ian insisted to HBOS that these gross impairments be reduced from the purchase price, a total initial reduction of $1.639 billion. As this form of mortgage insurance payout was returned in the form of a price reduction on the Bankwest purchase price rather than a cash payout, the original loss remained on the books for Ian to make an $825 million tax deduction on this benefit and scam the Australian taxpayers. Very clever indeed. He remembered what the crazy old man on the beach said while salvaging his boat, so Ian started sending his receivers out to the Bankwest customer businesses to carry out quick asset sales bypassing any market value auctions. As these customer mortgages were effectively written off with the losses passed to the British taxpayer, any sale proceeds would be profit for Ian, and a loss for the customer and British taxpayers, who were effectively the mortgage insurer. He remembered about the clawback arrangement the crazy old man insisted on when buying Ian's car, so Ian insisted that $328 million be withheld from the agreed sale price of $2.4 billion. After making the initial payment on the agreed purchase date, he immediately went about impairing more customers, claiming that they were impaired before the purchase date, so that he could claw back these impairments and offset them against a withheld contingent element, leaving him with a final payment of $26 million. He remembered what happened with the police officers and felt confident that the financial watch puppy ASIC would be too afraid or too dysfunctional to prosecute such a high-profile bank and would rather make up excuses to justify Ian's actions during a time of panic. In 2010, due to issues relating to provisioning and Basel capital adequacy, Ian needed to further reduce the Bankwest loan book. He remembered what the crazy old man did to his car rental company and thought to himself, well, the financial watch puppy ASIC haven't taken any action so far, so I guess I'll use induced impairments again. So Ian started a project called Project Magellan to look for more ways of inducing impairments on otherwise performing Bankwest loans. Ian remembered about the crazy old men being applauded at the charity function, so soon after, Ian joined the local charity CEO Sleepout and went on TV to build his public image as a corporate citizen. From January 2008 to June 2011, Ian induced $3 billion in impairments, amounting to approximately 20% of the Bankwest commercial loan book. This certainly was the deal of the century. The agreed sale price was $2.4 billion. Ian's own valuation of Bankwest as of 19th of December 2008 was $3.676 billion, after allowing for the $825 million in dubious impairments claimed by him. The initial discount was $1.639 billion based on the gross induced impairments. making the initial payment $2.037 billion. The difference from the agreed price being $328 million of withheld funds. These withheld funds were then clawed back using more induced impairments to reduce the final payment to $26 million, making the total price paid $2.063 billion for a bank worth $3.676 billion, discounted using an initial discount and subsequent clawback based on induced impairments. Ian needed the Australian public to believe that these billions of dollars of customers all decided to stop paying their mortgages all at the same time because they were all bad customers, and that anyone who claimed that these impairments were induced because of the Bankwest insolvency and CBA takeover were conspiracy theorists. He knew that the Australian public were more inclined to believe him because...
People say about banks, are they this, are they that? They trust us, they give us all their information, and I think that puts us in very good stead.
And he was right. The Australian public did trust Ian. Ian was praised for being able to make such great profits in such difficult economic circumstances. Unfortunately for Ian, some of his victims were starting to work out what happened. There were also some conscientious staff from Ian's bank who were providing information to these victims because they were fed up of doing Ian's dirty work for him. But Ian wasn't worried because he had an exit strategy. So what perhaps is his exit strategy? Phew! Made it safe back home to New Zealand with all the money I made in Australia. I can now retire and relax. Oh
Birds like pooing, bees like peeing, but everyone hates fake teeth on Ian.